Hey guys, tonight we are not going on a thrilling adventure through a bustling metropolis or a forgotten jungle. Instead, we're going somewhere far more silent, far more ancient, and infinitely more chilling. To a place where the stones themselves hold secrets and the air is thick with the weight of centuries. We're going to the Tower of London, a fortress that has stood for nearly 1,000 years, not just as a guardian of England's greatest treasures, but as a silent witness to its darkest hours. This is a place where you're not really going to survive in this situation. It's a place of confinement and sorrow, where the last sight for many was the cold gray walls and the glint of a steel axe. It's where queens and princes met their end, where whispers echo through stone corridors, and where, they say, ghosts still walk among the living. The very ground beneath your feet has been trod by figures who shaped history and stained by the blood of those who fell from power. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me where you are and what time it is for you. Let's share this eerie journey together. Now, turn off the lights and enjoy the journey together tonight. The White Tower stands as the grand, solemn heart of the Tower of London, its stone walls a ghostly white in the moonlight. Constructed by William the Conqueror, it was built not just as a fortress to intimidate the newly conquered English, but as a statement of power and an unassailable stronghold. For over 900 years, its formidable presence has loomed over the River Thames, a silent sentinel that has watched London grow from a small medieval town into a global city. While its primary purpose was defense, its massive walls soon became a repository for the most precious symbols of the monarchy, the crown jewels. Imagine the sheer weight of history held within those walls. The very same rooms that once housed royal prisoners now protect the priceless regalia of the United Kingdom. Within the jewel house, behind thick glass and iron bars, rests the imperial state crown, a breathtaking cascade of diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, and pearls. It's said to contain over 2,800 diamonds alone, including the legendary Cullinan II diamond, a gem so large it could fit in the palm of your hand. Alongside it lies St. Edward's crown, the heaviest of them all, used to crown every monarch since Charles II. These aren't just pretty objects, they're the physical embodiments of a nation's history, power, and continuity. The fact that these priceless symbols are housed in a place so steeped in death and imprisonment is a stark and haunting contrast. The same stone floors where these crowns and scepters are now displayed were once walked by figures like Sir Walter Raleigh, a prisoner for 13 years, who passed his time writing histories and smoking tobacco. The very air you might breathe in the jewel house once circulated in the dungeons below, carrying the desperate sighs of those who would never see the light of day again. The Tower of London is a living contradiction, a place of unimaginable wealth and abject misery, of royal pomp and quiet desperation. It's a paradox that makes it one of the most compelling and terrifying places on earth. The crown jewels are its glittering facade, but the stories of those who suffered within these walls are its true and lasting legacy, a memory carved into every stone and whispered on every cold breeze. The Tower of London, however, is a place where royal stories often end, not begin. The most enduring and heartbreaking of these tales revolves around two young boys, King Edward V and his younger brother, Richard, Duke of York. Known to history as the Princes in the Tower, their story is a chilling reminder of the raw, brutal nature of power struggles in medieval England. After the death of their father, Edward IV, the young king, just 12 years old, and his 9-year-old brother were placed in the Tower by their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucestershire. Richard claimed it was for their protection while he prepared for Edward's coronation. But what was meant to be a temporary residence soon became a permanent prison. The boys were seen playing in the garden, and their tutors were allowed to visit, but as the days wore on, the visits grew fewer, and eventually the boys were confined entirely to the inner apartments of the Bloody Tower. Their movements were watched, and their world shrank to the cold stone walls that surrounded them. The people of London, who had initially been skeptical of Richard's intentions, began to grow uneasy. Whispers spread like wildfire. The princes had vanished. No one saw them again. And soon after, Richard was crowned King Richard III. He was a man of great ambition, but he carried the heavy burden of suspicion. Did he murder his own nephews to seize the throne? History has debated this question for centuries, but the evidence, what little there is, points to a sinister conclusion. The boy's fate remained a mystery for nearly 200 years until the reign of King Charles II. While a staircase was being demolished in the White Tower, the skeletons of 2 children were discovered in a wooden chest buried deep beneath the stone. The bones were small, consistent with boys of their age. The discovery sent a shiver through the court, and the king, believing them to be the remains of the missing princes, had them reburied with honor in Westminster Abbey. This discovery, while not definitive proof, has long been taken as the final, tragic chapter of their story. The ghost of 2 small boys holding hands and wearing long white nightgowns is a recurring figure in the Bloody Tower, their spectral presence a testament to their terrible, unresolved fate. It's a story that asks you to listen closely to the whispers in the dark, to wonder if the stones themselves remember the innocent children who were lost to ambition. Just like the crown jewels, this story is a part of the Tower's legacy, a memory of innocence tragically stolen. The Tower's long and bloody history is also etched with the tragic story of Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife. Her fate is inextricably linked to this fortress, a place that served as her home at the height of her power and as her prison at the end of her life. Anne, a brilliant and charismatic woman, fell from grace as quickly as she had risen. Unable to provide Henry with a male heir, she was accused of treason, adultery, and even incest, charges that were almost certainly fabricated. She was brought to the Tower, not as a queen, but as a condemned woman. She was housed in the Queen's lodgings, the very same chambers where she had stayed for her coronation just 3 years earlier. The contrast must have been a torment, a cruel reminder of her former glory. Imagine her days there, pacing the familiar rooms, the weight of her impending execution a crushing presence. On the morning of May 19th, 1536, she was led out to a scaffold on Tower Green, within the castle walls, where she was to be beheaded, not with an axe, but with a specially imported French sword, a merciful gesture from her former husband. Her last words were a prayer for her soul and a gentle defense of her innocence. It is here, on the very spot where she met her end, that her ghost is said to walk. Guards and visitors alike have reported sightings of a spectral woman, often seen floating towards the chapel where her body was buried, her head tucked beneath her arm. Her headless form is not a grotesque sight, but a mournful, solitary one, a poignant symbol of her unjust end. She has been seen in the Queen's house, in the Bloody Tower, and even in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula, where she and her brother were laid to rest. The legend of Anne Boleyn's ghost
is not just a spooky tale, it's a profound statement on the fragility of power and the permanence of injustice. Her silent, headless procession is a perpetual reminder that the tower is not merely a collection of buildings, but a living memorial to the souls who are trapped within its walls. Just as we remember the innocent princes, we must remember the unjustly condemned queen. Her presence, a faint whisper in the heart of London.
Amidst the somber tales of executions and imprisonment, there is a legend of hope and survival, a story tied to a peculiar group of residents, the ravens of the tower. These magnificent, large black birds are not just a flock of creatures. They are the heart of a superstition that has shaped the tower's identity for centuries. The legend says that if the ravens ever leave the Tower of London, the kingdom will fall. It's a prophecy that has been taken so seriously that for over 300 years, the ravens have been a permanent, protected fixture of the fortress. The belief is said to have originated in the time of King Charles II. The king was a keen astronomer and was reportedly annoyed by the ravens roosting in the White Tower, interfering with his observatory. He ordered them to be removed, but was warned by his royal astrologer that if he did, the monarchy would crumble. Charles, a man of wit and pragmatism, apparently agreed to keep a small population of ravens at the tower just in case. To ensure the kingdom's safety, he decreed that there must always be at least 6 ravens present. Today, there are typically 8, 6 in residence with 2 as reserves, just to be safe. These birds are not wild creatures. They are officially enlisted soldiers, each with a name, a unique band on their leg, and a rank. They are cared for by a raven master, a yeoman warder, whose sole duty is to ensure their health and happiness. Their wings are clipped to prevent them from flying too far away, and they are fed a special diet of raw meat, blood-soaked biscuits, and the occasional tasty morsel of a rodent or a quail. They are a protected species, and harming a raven is considered a very serious offense. The ravens are as much a part of the tower's living history as the beefeaters themselves. Their croaking calls echo through the grounds, a constant reminder of the ancient bond between the kingdom and these dark-winged guardians. They are a tangible link to the past, a symbol that, despite all the sorrow and bloodshed, the monarchy and the nation endure. The sight of them hopping across the cobbled courtyard or perching on a cannon is both reassuring and slightly unnerving, a living embodiment of a legend that holds the very fate of the country in its feathered embrace. This is one story that doesn't end with a ghost, but with a living, breathing superstition, a testament to the fact that even in a place of death, life finds a way to stand guard.
Beyond the royal mysteries and legendary ravens, the Tower of London holds a much darker and more visceral history, that of a prison and a place of execution. While many famous figures met their end on Tower Hill, just outside the walls, some were executed in a more private and terrifying manner on Tower Green, a small patch of grass within the fortress itself. This was considered a privilege reserved for those of high status, sparing them the humiliation of a public spectacle. The list of those who died on this very spot is a who's who of English history: Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, Lady Jane Grey, and the Countess of Salisbury. For them, the last walk was a short one, from their cell to the scaffold, a journey measured in yards, but an eternity in their minds. But the tower's horrors were not limited to a quick, clean death. Its dungeons and torture chambers were notorious throughout Europe. The most infamous was the Bloody Tower, though its name is likely a Victorian addition meant to sensationalize its grim history. Within its walls, prisoners of state were often held in isolation, their fate uncertain. The use of torture, though officially forbidden under English law, was still widely practiced to extract confessions or information. The Tower's torture rack, known as the Duke of Exeter's daughter, was said to stretch a person's body until their joints popped, while the Scavenger's daughter, a lesser-known but equally brutal device, was a rack that compressed the body. These instruments were meant to break a person's will, to force them to confess to crimes they may or may not have committed. The Tower's long-serving function as a prison is one of its most chilling aspects. For centuries, it was the final destination for those who had fallen out of favor with the monarch. Prisoners would often carve their names, messages, or even elaborate family crests into the stone walls of their cells. These carvings, still visible today, are a haunting and personal testament to the individuals who were held there. They are not just names on a wall. They are desperate pleas, quiet acts of defiance, and final goodbyes, etched into the very fabric of the prison. The stones of the Tower don't just hold secrets, they hold the very essence of human despair. This is a place where you can still feel the echoes of suffering, where the weight of history is a heavy and silent presence.
While we can hear the echoes of the tortured, we can also wonder about the minds of those who inflicted that pain. Imagine for a moment the perspective of a fictional executioner at the Tower, a man whose life was defined by the silent, grim duty of ending others. He is not a man of great power or wealth, but a servant of the state, a silent cog in the machinery of royal justice. His tools are not the bejeweled crowns of kings, but the cold, heavy steel of an axe or the swift, sharp blade of a sword. He knows the weight of these instruments, not in a symbolic sense, but in a very real physical one. This man would have lived a life apart. His duties would have set him outside the normal rhythm of society. He would have been feared, respected, and reviled in equal measure. He would know the names and histories of the prisoners, not from books, but from their last moments. He would have seen their fear, their defiance, and their quiet dignity up close. He would have known the different types of courage, the loud bluster of a man who believed in his cause to the very end, and the silent, trembling grace of a woman who accepted her fate with a simple prayer. His world would be a tapestry of grim routine, the sharpening of the blade, the testing of the edge, the polishing of the block. He would have learned to read the sky for rain, knowing that a slick surface could mean a slip. He would have had to tune out the whispers of the crowd, the cries of the condemned, and the silent prayers. His focus would have had to be absolute, for a clean end was a mercy, and a botched one a mark of shame for all eternity. For him, the Tower Green was not a patch of grass. It was his workshop. The scaffold was not a stage. It was his workbench. And what of the ghosts we talk about? To him, they would not be phantoms, but memories. He would have known the faces behind the stories we hear, the quiet bravery of Anne Boleyn and the trembling resolve of Lady Jane Grey. He would have felt that presence not as a whisper, but as a silent question, a query about the nature of justice, power, and mercy. This executioner would have been a guardian of a different kind, not of jewels or secrets, but of the final moments of the condemned. His story, though unwritten, is as much a part of the Tower's legacy as any king or queen.
If the stories of the tower are a chronicle of suffering and power, then the sounds are the whispers of its ghosts. For centuries, guards, visitors, and residents of the tower have reported strange and inexplicable occurrences, eerie noises that seem to have no source. The very air seems to hum with the weight of its past. It's a place where the line between history and haunting is so thin it's almost invisible. The most common reports are of disembodied footsteps. Guards on night patrol, their boots echoing on the ancient stones, have often heard other footsteps trailing behind them or approaching from an empty corridor. A slow, methodical pace that disappears as soon as they turn a corner. In the Queen's house, where Anne Boleyn stayed, visitors have felt a sudden, inexplicable chill and heard the rustling of silk skirts. In the Bloody Tower, the laughter and whispers of two small boys are sometimes heard in the dead of night, followed by the chilling sound of a door being slammed shut from within the locked room. But it is not just the sounds of the dead that haunt the place. The ghosts of objects also seem to exist here. In the Jewel House, alarms have been triggered by what appears to be a sudden drop in temperature, a brief, invisible presence moving through the room. On the White Tower's upper floors, some have reported the clanking of chains, the rattling of keys, and the faint, despairing cries of prisoners long forgotten. These are not loud, theatrical noises, but subtle, fleeting ones. A brush of cold air on your cheek, a distant sigh, the creak of a floorboard where no one stands. These sounds are a reminder that the tower is a place where time is not a linear progression. The past is not buried here, it is woven into the very fabric of the present. The walls remember the despair of the prisoners and the triumph of the monarchs, and they carry those memories forward on the wind. The silence of the tower at night is not an empty quiet, it is a silence filled with 1,000 whispers, a place where every gust of wind could be a departed soul passing by. This is the tower's ultimate secret, the thing you can't see but can only feel. The palpable presence of history that refuses to stay in the past.
While the tower's ghosts and ancient stories are a testament to its past, the fortress is also a vibrant, living place, guarded and cared for by a unique group of people, the yeoman warders. Colloquially known as beefeaters, these men and women are much more than ceremonial guards. They are the living, breathing heart of the Tower of London, a direct link to a tradition that stretches back centuries. Their name is believed to derive from their historical role in guarding the monarch's food from poisoning, but their duties today are far more engaging and visible. To become a yeoman warder, one must have served at least 22 years in the armed forces, held a Good Conduct Medal, and reached the rank of warrant officer or its equivalent. This rigorous selection process ensures they are not only knowledgeable guides, but also disciplined and respected individuals. You see them in their striking dark blue uniforms, and on state occasions in the scarlet and gold Tudor uniforms that have become iconic symbols of the tower. They are historians, storytellers, and protectors, all in one. They lead tours through the fortress, their voices weaving together the complex tapestry of its history with a blend of fact, folklore, and personal charm. They are the ones who tell the story of the princes in the tower, of Anne Boleyn's final days, and of the ravens that hold the fate of the kingdom in their beaks. Their stories are not just recitations from a book, they are delivered with a sense of ownership and a deep respect for the place they call home. They live within the tower's walls, a modern community in a medieval castle, and their presence is a powerful counterpoint to the more sinister legends. They are the protectors of both the crown jewels and the historical memory of the place. They walk the same paths as the ghosts we have discussed, but they do so with a purpose: to preserve and share this incredible history with the world. So, as we bring our journey to a close, remember the tower is not just a place of death and sorrow. It is a place of enduring tradition and living history, where the ravens still stand guard, where the crown jewels still glitter, and where the yeoman warders ensure that the stories of this magnificent fortress will never be lost to time. The night has grown quiet now, and the shadows have softened. The Tower of London in our minds is now a distant shape against the dark sky. Its stones no longer a fortress of fear, but a gentle monument to time. Let the final image in your mind be the silhouette of the White Tower, standing in the moonlight, a silent guardian of all the stories we have shared tonight. The whispers have faded, the footsteps have ceased, and the ravens have settled in for the night. You are safe now, in your own bed, wrapped in the warmth and security of your own home. The darkness is just a canvas for dreams, and the quiet is a promise of rest. All the stories are tucked away now, safe in their ancient walls. Now close your eyes and let the sleep come easily, softly. Sweet dreams. Good night.